The job seemed straightforward enough, at least for someone like Kylisto. A mid-level Federation facility, light on security, with the standard payout, enough to keep his ship fueled and a few shady dealers in good spirits. Infiltrate, snatch a particular piece of prototype tech, then vanish into the labyrinthine void of uncharted space. He'd pulled off riskier heists for less reward. What the client didn't mention was the stench. Not the expected industrial tang most places of manufacturing carried, but something rotten underlaid with a chemical sweetness that made the fine hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. The facility, understaffed and with surprisingly lax protocols, held something far more valuable than any weapon prototype. The discovery came slowly, in glimpses that made him doubt his eyes. Movement in sealed chambers meant for the dead, figures strapped to tables, and then the eyes. Eyes that burned with a manic intensity that cut through the observation glass. He barely stifled a hiss. These weren't prisoners nor research subjects, but something twisted and wrong. Kylisto was no bleeding heart idealist. He was a bounty hunter, credits were his creed, and survival his guiding star. But there were lines even those hardened by the galaxy's cruelty wouldn't cross. The Federation, those champions of law and order, were hiding something hideous in this unassuming facility. The prototype tech was forgotten. This demanded a different kind of payment. The data stream out was meticulously encrypted, the recipient not his usual shadowy clients, but an address that sent a shiver down his heavily armored plating. It was an open frequency known in the underworld, the supposed haunt of half-mythical figures. The Shadow Weavers. The reply was as swift as it was unsettling. Coordinates, a compensation far surpassing his usual going rate, and a single chilling instruction: document everything. Kylisto, the jaded bounty hunter, accepted. This wasn't about credits anymore, nor mere survival. The galaxy was vast and held many horrors, but this was a perversion of something fundamental. If even the fabled Shadow Weavers stirred from their depths, it was a darkness that had to be brought to light. His second infiltration was brutal and methodical. The prototype was a distraction, the true prize hidden in plain sight. Med bays transformed into industrial-scale resurrection chambers, soldiers broken on distant battlefields, their shattered bodies twitching back into a grotesque parody of life. He saw it all: the unnatural healing, the haunted eyes, and the chilling assembly line efficiency of a system designed to churn out an endless supply of undead troops. The data packet he transmitted upon escape pulsed with its own terrible gravity. If the rumors were true, the Shadow Weavers didn't traffic in altruism. Yet, he found a cold comfort in their interest. They dealt in secrets, in the manipulation of shadows. Surely this monstrous revelation was a weapon even they could wield against the mighty Federation. Kylisto, the seasoned bounty hunter, found himself an unlikely pawn in a game far larger than he could comprehend. The prototype, once a valuable prize, was jettisoned into a dead star, a worthless sacrifice. His haven was a temporary one, his ship primed for a long, circuitous journey without a destination in mind. Those eyes burned in his memory. He understood that exposing this secret would likely cost him his life, but if it sent even the faintest ripple of disruption through the Federation's war machine, if it ignited a single flicker of doubt in the hearts of their enemies, it might just be a price worth paying. Kylisto's transmission hung in the ether, an accusation echoing amongst the cold stars. The Shadow Weavers were an entity he'd only encountered in passing, figures who transformed the mere possession of secrets into a terrifying form of power. He was a tool now, a weapon these spectral figures had chosen to wield against the might of the Federation itself. The waiting was its own kind of agony. Kylisto drifted, his ship's course erratic, designed to throw off any potential pursuit. Survival instincts clamored for him to vanish completely into the deepest, most forgotten corners of the galaxy. Yet, a sliver of defiant hope held him in orbit above a barren world. The reply finally came, not in any formal communication, but a data surge that wormed its way into his ship's systems, evading any firewalls or safeguards he'd erected. 2 words, not as a text, but a synthesized voice echoing chillingly in the silent cockpit. "Stay hidden." Then, a raw data packet, its contents less a map or set of coordinates and more like a stain spreading out on a star chart. It was a pattern, a series of anomalies, black holes flickering in and out of existence, temporary warp eddies, the kinds of unstable regions most sane pilots avoided. It was a path that could break his ship, perhaps even him, but hidden within this seemingly insane course were pockets, whispers of places where the fabric of reality warped subtly. Places where, if the rumors were true, a Shadow Weaver vessel could cloak itself, not in high technology, but in something far older, far less understood. Kylisto found himself at a crossroads without a map. One way led to oblivion, the destruction of the Federation's horrific secret at the cost of his own life. The other meant threading a needle through the teeth of cosmic chaos, a gamble that could just as easily deliver him bound and broken into Federation hands. But in those echoes of monstrous eyes, in the unnatural way those broken soldiers rose again and again, there was a flicker of defiant resolve that echoed the madness of the Lazarus Resurrection Project itself. He plotted his course not with navigational charts, but with the spread of the Shadow Weaver's data stain. The prototype, the credits, his old life, all those were sacrifices he made willingly at that moment. He aimed his ship towards the first anomaly, not with the cautious approach of a seasoned pilot, but with the reckless abandon of a weapon aimed right at his target. Either he would find the Shadow Weavers at the end of that path, or the universe itself would shatter to pieces around him. A bounty hunter's existence was always a gamble. The only change was that the stakes had been brutally, irrevocably raised.